Hi. Hello. There's something legendary about a panoramic film camera. Shooting, natively in a panoramic aspect ratio on film has almost like an air of mystery to it. And I think much of that can be traced back to the X-Pan. The X-Pan is a 35mm panoramic rangefinder made by Hasselblad, and there's not another camera like it, except that one. And let me tell you, they go for a pretty penny. But it's easy to see why. I mean, you have this rangefinder that's really bright and tailored specifically for panoramic aspect ratio images. And you have all these interchangeable lenses you can get for it. I mean, it's great. And while there is like a premium price tag, you get a premium experience. And the great thing about analog cameras is, unlike digital, this camera could be around for decades, generations to come. It's a family heirloom.
Whoa. All right, listen up. That is not accurate. I have misled you. That is not correct.
The X-Pan is definitely not that. It's a very much electronic camera, and it can die at any time, essentially. And in terms of repairs, there's very few options. You're paying a pretty big price tag for something that could die at any time. Arguably, it is like a pretty high quality camera. So presumably it's not gonna just die immediately, but it's possible is all I'm saying. So if you're comfortable with the thought that death may strike at any moment, the X-Pan has a wide variety of phenomenal lenses with technical specs that, justify their price tag. It's incredible.
Okay, I'm sorry to keep doing this, but that's not accurate either.
Damn, I guess we used the entire CGI budget in that first clip, because this clip looks terrible. Whatever, who cares?
So no, that's not true either. The X-Pan only has 3 lenses, and they're good lenses, but they vignette a lot. They're not fast at all. Maybe they could have gotten like a f3.5. Could have just squeezed a 2.8 in there maybe. I don't know. To be fair, it's basically medium format. So f4 makes sense. And, vignetting is a unique stylistic choice. And if you don't like that, you can always spend $3 grand on a set of center filters that force you to shoot at f8 equivalent. There are many cameras that have been compared to the X-Pan, but in my opinion, none come. Well, I mean, some of them come close, but none of them make it as a true X-Pan replacement. You don't want to sell one of your kidneys, or alternatively, you've sold one of your kidneys and want to invest it towards something that will hopefully last a long time. So let's kind of go through your options. There are some panoramic swing lens cameras, both in 35mm and 120. I'm thinking about the Wide Lux or one of the Horizon cameras. They take panoramic images and they do that by swinging a lens across the front of the camera. It's really interesting, how it works. However, most of these cameras generally are fixed focus, so there's no, landscapes are basically your only subject matter, unless you work in a light bulb factory and are willing to stop down to f16 or something. And even then, anything close to you is going to be less blurry than it would be normally. So not ideal for most situations. Cool cameras, not an X-Pan replacement. Next category would be point and shoot cameras that have a panoramic crop mode. A lot of point and shoots have this. I grabbed this random point and shoot off a shelf, and you can see we have the option to switch it to a panoramic mode. And all that does is put a mask over your film, and it crops in on a full frame picture. That's cool. It's not what we're looking for. That's a lower image resolution. That's kind of the opposite direction of where we want to go with this, or where I want to go at least. Another category I'll talk about briefly is these little toy cameras. Lomography is probably the most relevant company who makes stuff like this, but essentially little toy cameras or pinhole cameras that do a panoramic format. This is the Lomo Sprocket Rocket, and while the name grosses me out, it's a cool little camera. Not really an X-Pan replacement. Next option would be putting 35mm film into a 120 camera. Now this can be pretty good. This is the closest we've come to an X-Pan so far, I would say. The biggest issue in my mind is that most 120 cameras don't have a method to rewind 35mm film, which essentially means you got to bring your whole darkroom with you. Don't forget to bring a generator because the enlarger uses a lot of power. The exception to this would be like a Mamiya 6 or 7, which have a 35mm adapter that Mamiya made specifically for the camera, and of course they incorporated a way for you to rewind the 35mm film, which is phenomenal. That's probably a pretty good bet for most people. It's in a similar price range to the X-Pan, unfortunately, but presumably it is more repairable, I would say, in general. At least I would think so. And you know, there's also a mechanical wind on it. I think Lomography re-released the Lubitel camera, and I believe they made some kind of mechanism to rewind 35mm film in there. So like, that's interesting, but it's overpriced. So kind of a trend with these film cameras. I don't know what the deal is with that. Fujifilm at one point made a 6x17 camera. They actually made two. They made a few of them. Those are really cool, but it's not the most hand-holdable thing in the world, and it's not a rangefinder. You would have to scale focus with it. Although I suppose theoretically, you know, you could handhold it. I should do a video about that. I should interject here and say that if medium format panoramic cameras sound interesting to you, subscribe, because I have a video coming up that you will probably be fascinated by. Last, but certainly not least, is what I would describe as custom cameras. And, you know, we've seen a lot of these come out over the last several years as film has kind of started to make a resurgence and 3D printing has become more available to makers. Stuff like the BroncoPan or the Panomicron Oxygen, I think it's called, or the subject of this video, the Chroma Camera CubePan. Yes! When I heard about the 2024 CubePan, I knew I had to try it because the previous panoramic 3D printed cameras that I've mentioned kind of have a similar issue. You need to attach an external viewfinder and then an external rangefinder because I can't scale focus. If you're one of those freaks who can scale focus, leave a comment below. Tap that like button. I definitely don't mind having like a light meter mounted somewhere on the camera. So with all of those, it looks like a mess. And, you know, I'm certainly not a stranger to having some really bizarre camera setups, but there reaches a point where I hit my limit and go nonverbal. What makes this CubePan different is that it has a viewfinder that you can change out, integrated into the camera. So that means now I have room for an external rangefinder. It also takes a bunch of different lenses, including Mamiya Press lenses, which is awesome. I use a certain camera that takes Mamiya Press lenses, so I can just, you know, use the same ones. That's great. It has a kind of traditional ratcheting film advance, which I'm like really excited about, you know, so this is all great. This is good. You bet I ponied up some money to check this thing out. Chroma Camera is operated by a guy named Steve, and because he's just one guy, the 2 to 4 week turnaround period made total sense to me. It's hard work making cameras. I don't really remember, but I'm pretty sure it arrived sooner than expected even, so. The reason why I said I don't remember is because it was many months ago. That is foreshadowing, unfortunately. So after a while, it finally arrived, and I gotta say, I was pretty impressed when I opened it up. You know, it's clear that a lot of effort has gone into this, and it shows, it really does. Something that stood out to me as kind of interesting was the Mamiya Press lens mount system. I've designed a few of these over the many iterations of my Mamiya Press 4x5 camera. And this one is like, it's really nice. It's just so graceful. The tolerances seem like really precise. I've never gotten even close to this, so like phenomenal. Speaking of tolerances, the viewfinder is actually held in by friction, which is, you know, quite ambitious for something 3D printed. Now, it is time to shoot a roll. I loaded it up. There's a little bit of tension when you're pulling film out of a canister. And that tension made the racketing mechanism just not do anything, which is obviously concerning because you need that in order to use the camera. So I reached out to Steve, and basically immediately it was clear that, you know, this is not right. This is not how it's supposed to be. So he offered to fix it free of charge, which of course was a relief to me. I'd be lying if I didn't start to say I had a little bit of a little bit of wariness, in the air. The film advance isn't working, and the grip got missed, and, gaps are starting to show. Literally, I don't currently have this to show as an example, but essentially in the lens board, there was a gap. Me being a 3D printer guy, it was clear to me that a layer had been skipped, where essentially the printer didn't print anything. And I thought this was kind of like an interesting intentional choice. My theory at the time was this must be a kind of a way to calibrate the lens board, in that you could break apart these two pieces and like sand it down or remove material in order to adjust the flange distance. So it's like perfectly accurate if you want to, because they do include a ground glass. I applied some force to that lens board and it like popped apart basically immediately. It was like removing support material from a print. These Mamiya Press lenses aren't very light. The front lens could have just popped off immediately, and I would imagine that probably isn't an intentional thing. There's more stuff too. So when I was opening the back to kind of demonstrate the issue with the advance lever, I noticed the door just popped off, like the hinge of it sheared right off. I hadn't even shot a single roll on this thing. Regardless, Steve had very graciously offered to fix this for me. So I send it off to the UK, and I wait, and about a month passes, and I'm like, did that ever get delivered? I never got a notification for it. Turns out there were some custom fees on it, like 75 pounds worth of customs fees. So Steve just offered to make me an entirely new replacement. He redesigned the film advance mechanism. So basically just starting from scratch was what he thought would be the best choice. And I was all here for it. As long as I get a camera that can do what we need it to do, like this, that's totally fine. This is kind of a side note, but it's been months, and that package was supposed to be returned to sender. Where is it? Fast forward about a month, and I have this new and improved version of the camera in my hands. There's a few things that have changed on this model. So the film advance is different. The spring to the film advance just popped out. Okay, so I was going to discuss this in a second, but it appears fate has forced my hand. Essentially, the ratcheting film advance on this one is better. It does actually work. I was winding the film advance, and the spring from the film advance popped out. Just like it just did on camera, unprovoked. So you can force this back in with a screwdriver. Goddamn Royal Mail, what the... Okay. All right, and now if I apply some downward pressure, it popped out again. Popped out again. If it's not clear enough from this, is that like I am super sympathetic to these issues. Why? Well, I would say that like as somebody who has designed a camera and 3D printed it, it's a pain in the butt. It's hard work. This is really ambitious, and it's very impressive that it's come this far. As a customer, I purchased a completed camera. Normally, I wouldn't be so stubborn about that point, but I paid $500 for this. $500. The camera doesn't come with any instructions or like an introduction video, nothing like that. So I kind of just went outside and started taking pictures to the best of my ability, figuring, what the heck, I'll learn along the way. Immediately, my spring popped out. I go ahead, I develop the pictures, and I learned two things. First of all, first thing, the film winding indicator says half and full. And what I was doing is spinning it one whole rotation around, so it said full, and then just keep winding it until it says full again. Now half stands for half frame, and full stands for full frame. So for a panoramic image, you actually need the advance indicator to spin around 2 times fully. This is something that I probably should have been able to figure out on my own. It could have been avoided if there's just like a little quick start guide or something, just a little 4x6 that says like, hey, this is what you do. Now, the second thing, light leaks everywhere. It seems to only happen in like really bright sunlight. That is obviously a problem. I can only take pictures in subdued light. On film? What is this? I'm gonna load up some of that like 13,000 ISO film that Polaroid made in like 1980 or something. I'm gonna cut that down and put it in here. This camera is like so close to what I want, like so close. It's nearly there. It's like, it kills me that it's it's so close, yet there keeps being stuff in my way. So again, I reached out to Steve with all these issues, and I also mentioned some other stuff as well. So for example, I do have other concerns, believe it or not. These little lugs up here, those are tiny. Those are teeny tiny, and there's another little thing here for like a wrist strap, I guess you could mount in there. I would just have a lot of trouble trusting that, especially with a lens so big like this one. Additionally, even if this rationing mechanism was working, I do have concerns about, you know, this is PLA, even if it's 100% infill, or even if it was like ABS or PETG or something, it has a limited lifespan. So is this something that's repairable? Is this something, could I buy replacement parts for this? Could I open it up and fix it myself? Or am I kind of back to square one? I don't know. Maybe I have trust issues, you know, I've been burned before. I should also mention that at this point, I disclosed to Steve that I was intending on making a video about this camera, and like, there's a lot of potential here, but at this point, I don't know if I'd recommend it so far, you know? And I want to disclose that because I'm sure Steve would replace the camera and try to fix it and stuff for any customer, but, you know, ethically, I think it's important to, you know, disclose that. Apparently, other people have had similar issues, so Steve is going to make me a new one. The third one. Third one's the charm. I think you can sense my enthusiasm already. So the third camera arrived. Here it is with some really noteworthy improvements. Cool little grip, which I have unscrewed for some reason. We got an upgraded frame counter that actually has numbers on it, which is really nice. We got this little level on the top because the dark slide has moved. So all this stuff is really great, but the most important part is that it should work now. With the dark slide moved, which, you know, was thought to be contributing to the issues with light leaks and stuff, we should be like ready to go. So you've heard of lux maxing, which is like where when you, well, I don't really know what it means. I'm doing something that I call Holga maxing. So you can see here, I've covered this camera in tape all over the place, and hopefully that will allow me to take some pictures without getting any light leaks. But we'll have to see and find out. Also, this thing looks like a monstrosity. So I just hit the end of the roll, and I'm actually kind of excited. I think that if the pictures are going to come out, I think they might look okay. But now is the process of rewinding, and it's definitely kind of involved. So essentially, you have to hold down this button down there, and then you spin this little rewind lever, which, you know, is simple enough. It just takes a while. Like it takes a couple minutes of spinning. And almost immediately, walking around using this felt extremely natural. I was finally starting to get used to the idea of using one of these, getting into the rhythm of winding it a few times for every shot and like composing, and it's feeling really good. But what felt less natural was when the negatives came back with a bunch of light leaks still on them. What is going on here? You know, like, I'm not the only person to purchase this camera. You know, not everyone's having my bad luck, at least as far as I can see. Nobody's saying anything. And it's not like I'm using it incorrectly. At least I don't think so. For my day job, I am literally a professional camera specialist. Not my formal title, but still. And it's not like I load this any differently from any other camera. You know, you take your roll of film and you grab it and you spool all the film you want to use out. Turns out the issue is likely a small slot over near the film door latch, which when assembled is supposed to be light tight, but if the tolerance aren't exact, there's a little slot where light can get through. And this made so much sense. First of all, it explains why the light leaks were not always there. You know, sometimes my hand would be covering this spot, providing enough of a light seal to not cause any light leaks for some pictures. And then it also explains some weird layer lines, like 3D printed layer lines I was getting on film negatives. And I thought that it might be something related to pressure. The film is being pressed up against these layers and it's creating like scratches essentially on the film. But I think what it really is light just leaking in and kind of like traveling horizontally through those layer lines. This is great, and the best part is that I can fix it with putting a piece of tape over it and it should be good. So I load up a roll of film into the camera and I'm advancing it, and I hear a snap. That was the sound of the straw that broke the camel's back. In this case, I'm the camel, and the straw is a metaphor. I was loading up a roll of film, and check this out. Can't seem to get anything to happen. First roll I'm winding up after putting tape in, snapping noise, and now the film doesn't advance. Do you want to take a look at this? My willpower is not strong enough, so I decided to cut my losses. You know, as much as I want to make a little review and put it on YouTube and all that stuff, you know, so like 3 people can watch it, I'm pretty sure I can name all the people who are going to watch this video by name. The point is, I bought this camera for me. I want to use it. And to be honest with you, I think if this camera was like $150, you know, that would be a point where I would just say like, oh, you know what, like it's not working properly, but I would tear it open and try to do some repairs. I'm okay with this being a DIY project if it has to be, but at this price point, I can't justify that. I sent a message over to Chroma and I was like, hey, I've hit my limit. Can I just return this and be done with it? Steve very kindly gave me a full refund, despite the fact it's been like 5 months or something since I originally purchased it. And didn't even ask for any of this stuff back, which is very kind. And, you know, I think goes to show that if you do want to get one of these cameras, if it doesn't go your way, I'm sure Steve will make you whole again. I really like what Steve is doing over there, and a lot of the Chroma cameras are really cool. Like, many of them are very good cameras, and I know this for a fact. So I don't really know what happened here. I'm kind of inclined to believe that this might have just been a little bit too ambitious, you know, particularly with a spring-wound film advance with a bunch of like small, intricate, tiny pieces in there. Like, it's no surprise that issues would happen. I mean, I'm pretty sure this is like Bamboo's matte PLA. It's not necessarily rated for like a mechanical part, especially something that's going to be under so much duress because you have to wind it like 3 times for every shot. I don't know. I have so many conflicting feelings about this because this is so close. But after 3 cameras, I'm putting in tape, and then the first roll this happens, like, it's just concerning for the longevity of something like this, especially when this kind of being positioned as an X-Pan alternative, the concern there being that it's like an expensive, unreliable camera. You know, we don't want to get an X-Pan, but then we have this, which is fairly expensive for what it is, but then it's also might not be reliable. I don't know. Maybe the next version of this I'll give another try because I really want it to work. But at least now I don't think it's fully there yet. I've also come to the conclusion during the production of this video that at some point my willpower is just going to give out. I'm probably just going to buy an X-Pan. But I wanted something to hold me over so that I wouldn't be like spending every penny to my name just for this camera that's going to, you know, die immediately. But honestly, what's money anyway? You know, we all die eventually. You know, what kind of excuse is that? If you enjoyed this video, please stick around. I have other things camera related coming, as you can imagine, that actually involves taking more pictures rather than just complaining for 20 minutes. Goodbye.